first thing you want to do, if you didn't read it already, is that you want to make sure that you get your ice cream balls going. The ice cream balls have to sit in the freezer for at least, I would say, an hour, depending on how cold your freezer is. So I'll show you how to do it. I've pre-frozen my ice cream balls so that they can be easy to handle, but I'll show you how to make it. And don't worry if you haven't done that step. We can still move along and make the mochi, and you can let the mochi sit, and when your ice cream balls are ready, you can then kind of move forward. So I'll get my ice cream. Whatever flavor you want, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use right now raspberries and cream. And so what you want to do is, if you've got a small scoop, awesome. If you don't, what I like to use is just a tablespoon measure. Okay. And the size of your ice cream balls will, of course, determine the size of your mochi. I need this, thanks. Will determine the size of your mochi. And also the shape of the ice cream balls will determine like what your mochi ends up looking like. So for ease, if you have these are just muffin liners. So I like to put one ball in each of these because I don't have a lot of room in my freezer. And so it just makes sure that like I can spread them out a little bit. And then also the ice cream's gonna melt a little bit when you do this, so it just keeps it all contained. Yeah. So I'll show you an example. This recipe for this amount of mochi, depending on the size of your ice cream balls, will probably make at least 8. And so up to you if you want to make the full 8 or not. So I like to wet my measuring thing so the ice cream doesn't stick. And then I just scoop it in, and you can make whatever size ball you want. If you want it to be flat on the bottom, go ahead. If you want it to be fully round, that's okay too. But I just wet it so it doesn't. So I just move it around, just like you're scooping ice cream.
Oh, I said I did that last night because I saw it in some video.
Awesome. Oh, you did it. You're ready to roll. Okay, cool. So this is the size of my little ice cream ball, right?
Yeah.
And then I put it in my little container. And if you have room like Janan's, you can put it in the muffin tin, right? Yeah. Tin. That's great also to put there. You must have a spacious freezer, Janan. And then I'm just going to throw it in the freezer to make sure that it's going to have enough time to chill. Okay, cool. So while that's resting, we're going to move on to the actual mochi part. So today we're going to make mochi in the microwave. And the reason why I'm hosting this experience is that when I was a kid, we used to make mochi as a family. And you'll see why a little bit later, but the traditional way of making mochi used to be that you would actually get sweet rice flour. And it's a short grain rice, and you would boil it, then you would steam it, and then you would grind it by hand. And unfortunately, the grinder that we used to have at my home, it's no longer available, but I want to show you what sort of it kind of would look like. So we used to have something like this at my house, except the bowl was very large. So I would say like this size, because we want to make a lot of mochi at a time. And then the wooden mallet, there was like a wooden mallet that we would use, and we would pound it together. And it's a lot of work. And so it would be like an all day affair. Yeah. But today, now we have the convenience of the microwave, and you can actually buy sweet rice flour. So it's a lot easier than when we used to make it when I was a kid. There just wasn't a lot of Asian markets around Vancouver back in those times. So here we go. You're gonna get your sweet rice flour and a 1 cup measure. You need 1 cup of sweet rice flour in a microwave safe bowl. So you want to get a pretty good sized bowl because you're going to have to move that dough around in there for a little bit. Yep, you got that, Janan. That's perfect. So you get 1 cup and make sure it's a full cup. Okay. So I'm not going to be super precise, but make sure it's a pretty full cup. You don't want it heaping. And you're going to throw that in.
Showed us the label of the sweet white rice flour before. Denise was hoping to know a little bit more about what kind of sweet rice flour it is.
Oh, do you want to know the brand, Denise? I can show you the pack. The brand is Chorito. Chorito. This is the sweet rice flour. And you will also be able to find it. This might be more readily available. If you go to the Japanese food store, they might have a different version of this. It is milled in a different way, and that can also be used. It sometimes is preferable actually to make mochi because it makes it a little bit chewier. So next, if you want to make your mochi a different color, if you've got food coloring, awesome. If you don't, it's totally fine for it to be white, but we need 1 cup of water.
And is this a good time? I see Timmy says he has a question.
Sure.
Go for it.
Like how much of sweet rice flour do we put in?
Great question. 1 cup.
Okay.
So you've got 1 cup of sweet rice flour.
Okay.
And then
Hi, Timmy.
1 cup of water. And we want to make it sweet. So the sweet rice flour will be a little bit sweet, but not totally. So this is where you can play around a little bit. If you want to add sugar, you can. If you don't, it's up to you too. But I like to add about 1/4 cup of sugar. And you can just use white sugar here.
And don't forget, this recipe will be on the Facebook page. So if you want to find it again, we can help, or you can root through our Facebook events.
So you've got 1/4 cup of sugar. And then you also just want to do just a little bit of salt, not a lot. The salt is just to kind of enhance the flavor. So I just use maybe even like 1/4 teaspoon, just about this much. Again, up for you. If you want to add it, add it. If you don't, that's okay too. So you want to make sure it is mixed quite well. So you've got in your bowl now 1 cup of sweet rice flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I've got waiting here 1 cup of water. Now, if you want to add a color to your mochi, this is the time to do it. So I'm gonna make my mochi pink. So I'm gonna get out my red food coloring, and I'm going to add just a couple drops, maybe 4. Depends on how deep you want the color to be. Of course, if you're using gel food coloring, you can use a little bit less because it's more concentrated. But I just like to add it to the water before I add it to the mixture. So the next step that we're going to do is I'm just going to add the colored water. If you don't have colored water, that's fine. You can just have plain water, and you just want to whisk the mixture. So you want to whisk it up just so that you don't have any clumps, right? You don't want to bite into like a chunk of rice flour. That wouldn't taste so good.
So should it be like liquidy?
It should be liquidy, kind of like pancake batter.
So, oh, okay. So should I add more rice flour if it's not like that?
Well, let me see yours. Did you use 1 cup, 1 cup?
Yeah, I did.
Yep, I think you're good.
Okay.
This recipe is really forgiving. You can add a little bit more water if there's not, or if it's too much water, you can microwave it a little bit more. So you can see mine. This is sort of the consistency it's at, right? So you won't need your whisk anymore, so I'll put that away. And then what you'll want to do is you'll want to grab some plastic wrap. And you want enough to cover the whole bowl. But you don't want to seal your bowl super tight because it's going to steam. So you do want the steam to sort of stay in the bowl, but not totally escape. So what I do is I usually wrap it like this, and I leave one part just a little bit loose. It's still covering it, but I leave it a little bit loose. You see? And so depending on your microwave, and your microwave might be slightly different than mine, but try it out, is we're gonna microwave it now for 1 minute.
Sorry, Janey. Do you roll that out when it's hard?
Yeah, so there's two options. You can use a rolling pin if you want it to be a bit more of an even thickness, or you can use your hands to kind of stretch and pull it. I like to use a rolling pin, but I think it's also up for you. Yeah. So there goes the microwave. So just be careful when you take your bowl out. It could be hot. Mine isn't too bad, so I'm just gonna take it out with my bare hands. And I'm gonna show you what it looks like so you can see that the colors sort of changed. And around the outside, it's kind of like solid, right? And then it's kind of milky in the middle. Do you see that? That's okay. Don't worry if it's chunky. So what you can use to mix this is you can use either a rice paddle or you can use a wooden spoon. I'll warn you that it is going to get very thick and it is going to get very sticky. So you'll want to use something that's very strong, that's not going to break. So if you've got like a really strong wooden spoon, use that. Otherwise, try and use like a metal spoon or a rice paddle if you have it. And yes, you do microwave. The first time that you microwave it, we're microwaving for 1 minute. Then you take it out and you'll want to scrape down the sides. And you can see the sides have some cooked mochi, right? Like it's kind of chunky. Not to worry. We're going to scrape down the sides and you're just going to mix it and incorporate those chunks. It doesn't have to be smooth. So don't try and like take the chunks out or anything like that. You just want to break it up a little bit and just stir it. Not a lot. Okay. You see it's already getting pretty thick. Then take your plastic wrap again, cover it up one more time. Again, you want to cover it so it's enough steam, but not too tight so a little bit can escape. And we're going to microwave this for 1 more minute again.
Okay. Oh, leave the plastic wrap on.
So,
Timmy, do you want to ask Janey a question? Go ahead, Timmy.
Oh, like we can, like I forgot if we can put like mochi sugar or salt in it. I forgot if we have to put them in.
oh, okay. So you can put 1 cup of rice flour and a 1/4 cup of sugar.
Like, do we have to put sugar in?
Yeah, if you want it to be sweeter, it's nice to put the sugar in. You don't have to. It just means that the dough won't be sweet.
Okay, I don't understand what is mochiko.
What is the mochiko?
Yeah.
The mochiko, this is the sweet rice flour.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
oh, I get it now.
yeah, so that's the sweet rice flour you want to use.
Okay.
So again, just be careful with your bowl. It's pretty hot now. It's kind of amazing. Just be careful when you take your saran wrap off, and have a look now. Do you see the difference from the first time we microwaved it to now? The
It's
first time we
solid.
microwaved it, the middle was all kind of still gloopy, and now the middle part is pretty solid, and the outside, of course, cooks a little bit quicker. So what you're gonna do is, again, take whatever you're mixing with, and you're gonna mix it, and you'll notice it's much thicker this time, right? It starts to form. This one, you wanna do a pretty good stir to incorporate it. And what we're doing in the microwave with the mochi is we're cooking it, we're steaming it. So you can either use the microwave to steam this bowl, or the other thing that you can do is, if you have a steamer at home, you can put the glass bowl in the steamer and cover it, and just steam it that way. That's totally fine too. So you can see I've mixed it up, and it's pretty doughy, right? And that's okay. You want to get most of the stuff off of your paddle here.
Mine's
And then
it's still a little bit liquidy.
Yep, that's okay. It means you just need to microwave yours for a little bit longer. So the next microwave round, Janan, I would microwave yours. I'm going to do 30 seconds, but you do yours for another minute. So if anybody else is like Janan and their microwave might be different than mine, and it's still pretty liquidy, just microwave it for another minute. I'm going to do mine for just 30 seconds. And it's the same, your microwave might be like way more powerful than mine, and so it might be super chunky and not like elasticy. And if that's the case, you can also add just a little bit more water and stir it in too. So it's pretty forgiving what you can do with this. While that's microwaving, I'm just going to tell you also about a traditional filling. And we're not going to do it today because we're doing it with ice cream, which is a bit more of a modern twist. But traditionally, what mochi used to be filled with is red bean, azuki beans. So that's what these look like. Can you see these? Yeah, the mochi will be done in a little bit.
I see those red beans.
Yep. This is my taste tester here.
Uh-huh.
So these are, they're called azuki beans, also called red beans.
Can I eat them?
No, you can't eat them. Good question. You can't eat them when they're raw like this. They're very, very hard, just like beans. You have to cook these for several hours. So this morning, I wanted to show you guys the traditional filling. And so this is what it looks like once you cook them.
Have I tried it, Mom?
Mm-hmm.
Let's try this way.
Yeah.
Go back to beans.
Okay. Out you go. Out you go.
How is that doing?
I'll give it to you after. So this is what the filling looks like once it's cooked. And this has been cooked for probably 2.5 hours. And this is when it's just in its raw form and mashed. Now, some of you may have seen, I think it's called like strawberry daifuku, where it's like a strawberry wrapped in red bean, wrapped in mochi. That's pretty popular too. If you want to make something like that, or you want something smoother, what you can do is you can pass it through a sieve. So all I took was this one. I passed it through a sieve, and then you can see that this one has a totally different texture. This is very smooth, and it doesn't have any of the husks of the bean. So that's also personal preference. Okay, so let's have a look at the mochi. It's very hot now. I'm gonna just take the plastic.
Should it be solid?
It should be fairly solid, like
Okay.
this, right? So you could turn your bowl upside down and it wouldn't come out. Is yours like that? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your paddle again, and this is where the workout starts. So this is why we used to make mochi as a family, because you would usually have to pound mochi a lot, and that's what gives us its chewy texture. So I'm going to just show you. So when we first make it, and I go like this, it doesn't pull up, right? You'll see the difference as we stir it. So what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to stir it and fold it in, and kind of like a kneading motion. So I'm twirling it, and then I'm pushing it down, and I'm twirling it, and I'm pushing it down. And you can see that it's starting to get very elasticy. It's super sticky. So try not to get it on your fingers. It's gonna stick everywhere, and that's totally okay. But can you see now the difference? Do you see how it's starting to get these bands of elastic? So you wanna turn this, if you wanna know how many, I think a safe number is like 100 times. Probably you'd wanna knead this. The more that you knead it, the chewier the mochi is. So if you ever get mochi and you taste it and it's just kind of tastes like dough and it doesn't have that kind of gummy, chewy flavor, it's probably because it wasn't kneaded for very long. So you'll want to keep kneading this. It's like a total arm workout. And you can see it's sort of changing its texture. See? So when I pull up now, can you see the difference? Remember before when it first came out of the microwave and I pulled up, it wasn't making the bands. And then now you can sort of see it's kind of like cheese, right? Like melted cheese. So I'm gonna keep kneading it. You'll start to see it starts to get kind of a little bit shinier, and it just starts to look really smooth. If you do have a mortar and pestle, like a large one, not one for making spices or anything, but a big one, what you could do is you could just, what we used to do is we used to just beat it like this. This would be, you know, your wooden mallet, and you would just beat it this way. And we would do this probably for so long. It's another way you can do it. And then as you can see, it starts to get a little bit more gummier.
Mine's still a little bit thick.
Yeah, if it's thick, that's perfect. You want it to be thick. You don't want it to be liquidy at this point in time. Okay. So now it's still fairly hot. So a nice thing about this is as you're stirring it, it's kind of cooling it down so you can handle it. And you can see now the consistency. That's what you want to get to, right? So sweet rice flour, super versatile. It's not just something you would use to make mochi. And actually, mochi is the Japanese name for it. And I am Korean Japanese. And so we used to call this chapsardok. And so it's the same ingredients. It's the same way to make it. It's just a different name. And we also use sweet rice flour to make other rice cakes, like savory rice cakes. So some of you, if you like Korean food, might have heard of like tteokbokki, which is like the spicy rice cake dish. You can also, if you want to be super ambitious, you can make your own rice cakes using the sweet rice flour.
Mine's very thick like this. It's like very thick.
Yep, keep stirring it and kneading it. And then when you pull it up, like try scooping it up from the bottom. Does it look like this?
It doesn't look like that.
What does yours look like?
It's like this, like all together in like a ball.
Okay, you need to keep stirring it. What you might need to do is you might need to add just a little bit of hot water.
Okay, so Timmy just wants to know, how does the red bean become soft? Denise has a recommendation that she says Superstore has a sweet rice flour.
You know. How does the red bean become soft? You have to simmer it. So basically, if you want to know, you would take your red beans, right? And you would just wash them and then put them in a pot. And really, I would add, like, if you're using 1 cup of red beans, I would add 6 to 7 cups of water. Then you want to boil them at a high temperature for about 10 minutes. And then you want to simmer them. Turn it down to low and simmer it. And you can simmer it probably for a good, I would say 2 hours. I know, it's a lot. 2 hours, and then it will be soft. You've got to test it. When the beans are, like, you can hold the bean in between your fingers and mush them easily, means they're done. And then from there you drain it, and then you can add sugar, brown sugar for this vanilla extract. And then what I add is sweet rice syrup. You can also use corn syrup. That would work as well. It's very sweet. Okay, so I think
Selena has a quick question as well.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about the beans.
Yeah.
You get them at a Japanese store?
Yeah, you can get them at the Japanese food store. You can get them at the Korean market. I believe they sell red beans also, just like, I think you could probably get them at like Superstore or Save-On. They're just red beans. Yeah. So look for red beans. Yeah. Japanese call them azuki beans. In Korean, we call this like mixture pop.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that's the Korean word for it. Pop.
Can you use that if you don't want to use it?
Yeah, if you want to use a bean filling, and I'll show you what it'll look like if you wanted to use bean filling for this, that would be okay. Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, if you can do it without it.
You'll need something to put in the mochi. So you can make your mochi, and you'll want to put something in it, but you can also just eat it plain. Sometimes I cut it into strips, and then you saw my taste tester earlier. Him and I just eat them. Yeah. Or you can actually cut them up and you can put them on top of ice cream. Yeah. Totally up for you. Yeah. It's pretty versatile. You just make a snack. You could probably fry them as well. Okay. So it's still warm, so just be careful handling it. And I'm going to make some space here so that I can show you the rolling out process. So you want a clean surface, and you might have a giant cutting board. I do not, so I just use my countertop, and I just make sure my countertop is really clean. And for this next step, you're going to need either potato starch or cornstarch. Don't use flour, because potato starch and cornstarch you can eat raw. It's not a big deal. Whereas flour is not recommended. Okay, so I'm gonna move this out of the way for now. I've already pre-cleaned my countertop, so we're good to go. And I'm gonna just lower you guys down here. So this is potato starch. I know, it looks like the exact same bag as my sweet rice flour. So that's why when you go to the Korean market, just keep an eye out for what you're looking for. I have many times bought the wrong thing because it's all in the same aisle. So you're looking for potato starch or cornstarch. My bags look identical as well because I use the same brand. And what you want to do is, this is really important. Like, you need a lot of this, okay? Because the mochi is super sticky. Like, it will literally stick to everything, and you don't want it to stick to your counter, or it'll be difficult to get off. Not impossible. It's not a huge deal if it happens, but it is what it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mochi. It's super sticky, and I'm going to take it And I'm just going to put it down here. I try not to touch it because it is so sticky, it just sticks to my hands everywhere. And I try to scrape the bowl. Okay. You can see how sticky it is, right? It's everywhere. Okay. Once I get it to this giant mound of pinkness, I'm realizing that it looks slightly like Pepto-Bismol, but it's okay. Okay. Then what I do is I take my bowl and just soak it in hot water. The nice thing about like rice is it just comes off. And yeah, we have many uses for it. So if I think about how sticky this is, when I was growing up, my grandma also used to make glue out of rice. Yeah, she used to make glue. If we didn't have glue at home, she would make glue. And I have to say, it was like the strongest glue ever. It just stuck forever. And non-toxic. So this is potato starch, and I'm putting the potato starch on top. And that's because I'm gonna roll it out, right? So I wanna make sure it doesn't stick. Okay. And so you can use a rolling pin, right? And roll it if you want. And just making sure that as it lifts, like I'm just checking to make sure there's enough starch underneath it. It's very soft. And I'm gonna roll it out. You can see what happens when there's not starch, it just sticks right away.
And Janey, Denise has a quick question.
Sure.
Go ahead, Denise.
For the sweet rice flour is this one?
I don't see you, Denise.
Oh,
Are you showing me something?
Yeah.
Hang on.
What?
You want to put it up to the screen?
keep holding it up, Denise. There we go.
This one, the sweet rice flour?
It looks like it is, Denise. Does it say sweet rice flour on the package?
Per se sweet rice.
If it's just a sweet rice, then I think that's
Yeah.
just sweet rice. It has to say sweet rice flour
Oh, okay.
because there is something called sweet rice. And that's actually where the sweet rice flour comes from. Like if you took your sweet rice and you soaked it and you cooked it and you steamed it, it would make mochi.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
It has to say sweet rice flour.
Oh,
But the one I'm using just says rice flour on it.
It says just rice flour on
Yeah,
it?
it just says rice flour.
Yeah, so it's probably just rice flour. It's not the sweet rice flour. I haven't used that before. It just means that it was made with rice rather than sweet rice. So we'll see if the consistency is the same. I think you're going to be our tester for that. Is yours able to roll out like this?
I'm still at the part where I'm mixing it.
Okay. I haven't ever tried it with rice flour, so I don't know if it'll act the same or not, Janan. Okay, so I'm rolling this out. You guys can see it, right? And I think what you want to make sure is that it's not too thick, because then, well, it's up to you. That's preference, I guess. I don't like it to be super thick around my ice cream. I like it to be a little bit thinner, because otherwise I just find it's a lot.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I have this rice flour right here. Is that the same thing?
If it just says rice flour, it is not the same thing.
But
It
is
has-
they also say a glutinous rice flour?
Yeah, that is not the same thing.
Is that the same thing? Okay, thank you.
I don't think so. Like it should say sweet rice flour. If the ingredient If the ingredient is sweet rice, then it's the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would look at the ingredient in the back. If it says rice, then it's made with just regular rice rather than sweet rice. So I'm just double checking my bottom to make sure. And you can see it's a little bit fragile, but that's okay. So I can roll it out, right?
Janey, can you use like different food coloring if you wanted to, or do you have to use the same color?
Oh no, you can use any food, any color you want. Yeah, you can totally use any color you want. It's up to you. You don't even have to use food coloring. It's totally optional, right? I think like we used to use food coloring just so that it's decorative. Sometimes if you go to the Korean rice cake store, they use different colors to also indicate different fillings. So one color would mean like it's filled with red bean, another could be filled with yellow bean. So it's just all different. So I don't have a cookie cutter that's like a round shape for me. So I'm using a bowl. You can use a bowl or you can use a cup. You just want to make sure that it's going to make a big enough circle that it fits your ball of ice cream that you made before. So all I do is I take this, right? And I just make sure that it's got some potato starch around the rim.
How thin should you roll it out?
I would say maybe 3 millimeters.
Okay.
So I'm going to cut this out and then I'll show you how thin it is. But it's also personal preference, right? Like you might like a really thick mochi around your ice cream. So can you see? It's thin for sure. Like I can sort of see through it. Like it's a little translucent, but it's not so thin that if I held it, it would break, right? Because you need to be able to handle it. So it's about this size, right? So what you want to do is you want to pre-cut out all the circles for your ice cream ball. And then what you want to do is you can get a plate. Make sure there's enough potato starch on your plate. And you'll have a lot on your mochi here already, right? So, and then you can start stacking them, right? So I just cut. And then I stack them. I just make sure there's enough starch on them all. So you can cut these and just like regular dough, you can ball it back up and like roll it out again and cut some more if you want. I do find that changes the texture of the mochi a little bit because it has the starch incorporated in. So the mochi isn't as wet as it would be before. So 2, 4, 6, 7. So I've made 8 so far, and I probably could get a couple more out of this size. So again, depends on how big you want your mochi ice cream to be. I've seen mochi ice cream like really big ones, and then you can also make little tiny ones if you want. Okay.
So the sweet rice flour is in the Walmart. I just look.
Oh, cool. Walmart.
Thanks.
Nice. Thanks for checking that out, Denise. Okay. So you can save the rest of it, roll it, like put it in a bowl and roll it out again if you want to cut out more. Or you can use this and just eat it as a snack, or cut it up and then into smaller pieces and put it on ice cream. Totally up to you. Do not put this back in your bag. This is something you just want to get rid of. Okay, so I'm going to just tidy that up and then we are going to start wrapping. Does anybody have any questions while I'm tidying this up?
I'm sure add more cornstarch if it's like sticking to the rolling pin?
Yes, add more cornstarch and make sure to get whatever's stuck to your rolling pin off, or it'll just keep sticking. So you can probably scrape it off with a knife.
All right, and Jamie has a question as well. Go ahead, Jamie. Jamie, do you want to go ahead? You have to unmute yourself. One second, he's just trying to unmute.
Oh.
There we go. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Jamie.
Circle. How big are the
Big.
circles?
Big circle.
Good question. It depends on how big you did your ice cream balls, but my ice cream balls are about the size of a tablespoon. So my circles, I would say, are probably I'm so terrible with measurements, probably 3 inches.
Okay. Okay. You say thank you.
Thank you. So it's like a little bowl. You can use a cup or a cookie cutter, depends on what you have on hand. Okay, so now we've handled this enough so it's had time to cool, so it's not hot. And so I also made some ahead of time, green, just to show you as well. So I'm gonna grab my ice cream balls. Now, if you made your ice cream balls ahead of time, they will probably be cold enough to handle. If you made them just at the start of today, like at 11:30, they might still be a bit soft. And I would say not to take everything out at one time, right? Because it takes time to wrap them. So I usually do one at a time, but it's up to you how quickly you want to do it. What can be helpful when you're doing it is this tray, if you want. Some people like to use a little piece of saran wrap. Just small enough to hold the mochi, right? And you can lay the saran wrap in a tin like this. And then what you can do is you can take one of your circles, and you'll see there's a lot of starch on it. If you have a brush, great. Brush the starch off. And the reason is because the starch is there to make it not sticky, but you want to be able to stick the mochi together now to close the ball. So you don't want too much starch. If you don't have the brush, that's okay too. Just brush it off with your hand. And you're trying to make it so that there's not too much powder left on it. You see? So what I'll do is I will place, I'm gonna bend it back down. So I will place this in the saran wrap. So you see saran wrap, then the mochi, right? It's filling in, right? And then I'll get an ice cream ball. Okay, so the ice cream ball that I froze at 11:30 is pretty hard. I think also because I turned my freezer down to like super freezing. So there's my ball. So I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna pop it in here. What I'm gonna do, yikes. I'm gonna take it, just lift it up a little bit. I'm trying not to touch the ice cream, and I'm gonna close the ball up here with the mochi, right? And then you wanna just push it together. Right? Like this, see? And this is why you wanna brush the starch off, so that it's easier to stick together. So I pinch it together, right? I really try not to touch the ice cream too much. And then what I can do is I can take this saran wrap and I can bunch it up, and then I can twist it like this. And then I can shape it into a nice size, right? And so if you've got like Janey, if you've got like a large freezer, then you can stack them all up and then put them in the freezer that way. For me, I don't. So I'll probably just take this, I'll put it back in like this, and I'll put it back in the freezer to set. Right? and then I'll keep going with the ice cream balls. Now, I'll also show you what it looks like to do with the red bean, right? So it's the same thing, but you don't have to worry about temperature with this one because nothing's going to melt. So I take this and I'm going to brush off the starch, right? So that it'll stick once I'm putting everything together. And then what I do is I just take a small ball of this, right? And this paste is firm enough to handle. So you can see here, looks like this. And all I do is I place it in the center. And same thing, I bring up the sides and I form it together. I probably could have made a bit of a bigger ball. So now, do you see how I've pinched it all at the bottom? You don't want that, right?
You put the rice flour like ball on first, and then you put the saran wrap around it.
Yes. Yes. So you want this to have a flatter bottom. So what I usually do is I just cut off the excess, right? I cut off the excess so then when I put it down, it looks like this, a cute little ball, right? Someone's hearing that things are being done. Okay, and then you just want to make sure if you're putting them away somewhere, right, to eat like in Tupperware, it's going to be sticky. So just make sure to put some rice flour around, not rice flour, cornstarch or potato starch around it so it doesn't stick. And then you can package them up like this in a little pack. Okay? Okay. Yes, do you want, we're gonna have a taste test, guys, live. Do you want to do the red bean one? Yeah, you do the red bean one. You like it. What do you think? Pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna take out the ice cream one and cut it to show you guys what it looks like inside, and then you can see. Okay, you probably, yeah, can you just go with that for a minute? You probably want to leave it sitting for a little bit longer than obviously we did because then it'll set, right? And it'll stick together. But for today, we'll just open it up and have a look. Okay? So it looks like this. It's like a cute little package. And then we'll cut it and you can see what it looks like inside. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, here it is, guys. This is your ice cream mochi. Somebody over here is just dying to try it. And that's it. So you can make as many of these as you like. Yeah, you can freeze them. They can keep for quite a while if you've put them in the freezer, especially if you throw some ice cream in.